Previous generations didn't have the newest budgeting app, cashback credit cards, or Amazon Prime. But what they did have was timeless money wisdom that worked. Old school frugality is not outdated. In today's video, we'll discuss some financial habits from a bygone era that need to come back. I'm Sarah, I'm a certified financial educator, and I made this channel to help Christians manage God's money God's way for God's glory, because it all belongs to Him. If that sounds like something that would help you, please consider subscribing for new videos every week. One of the reasons people from previous generations were able to save so much money is because they lived a much more slower paced life than we do today. A lot of time, we don't have enough time. Because time and money are both finite, we'll find ourselves spending money in order to try to save ourselves more time. So before we dive into all of these ways that you can save money, let's talk about first just slowing down a little bit. Can we take some stuff off of our plate? Can we be stretched a little less thin so that we have the time to do the things that are going to save us money? Maybe this looks like less time on our phones or streaming shows, less overcommitting our calendars. Slowing down can be a great way to implement these frugality tips from the past that will help save you a ton of money. All right, my first tip is more time is going to mean you can do more cooking at home. Everybody knows that you are going to save money on your food budget if you cook at home more than eat out. But you're not only going to save more money, you're going to eat less calories, you're going to choose healthier options. All around, this is going to be better for you. But you have to make sure you take the time to put in the work to make this happen. Make a meal plan for 1 or 2 weeks, depending on how you do your budget and how you do your shopping. Plan ahead so that you are not going to the grocery store every day and adding more impulse buys into your food budget. Cook once and batch cook so that you have food that you can freeze or that you can use during the week to make it a lot easier for you to eat, cheaper and healthier. Keep your meals simple and easy. You do not have to cook like a celebrity chef. Do that on special occasions and keep the rest of the stuff very simple, delicious, but not hard to cook. The next way that you can save money is also related to your food, and that is eliminating how much food waste you have every month. I don't know about you, but I have lost count of how many times I have bought a bag of baby spinach with all of these wonderful intentions of what I was going to do or the more salads or smoothies I was going to eat. And then a few weeks later, it's at the bottom of my produce drawer and it's kind of slimy and I've just thrown away a few bucks. That's happened way too much. Just pay close attention to how often and how much you're throwing away and try to adjust your meal planning and your shopping to minimize that as much as possible. When you meal plan, go and do a pantry and fridge sort of inventory to see what you have and how you might be able to incorporate what you have into those meal plans so that they're not going to waste. Freeze what you can. You can freeze almost anything. I freeze so much stuff to just make sure you can preserve it before it goes bad. Get more comfortable with eating leftovers or try to find ways to take leftovers and repurpose them into a different meal. All of this will cut down on food waste and that's going to save you money. If you have the ability, try growing some of your own food. This does not have to be on acres of land or with a big fancy garden. I've grown food on apartment balconies or in containers on a patio. You can even just have some things growing in a sunny window in your house. Things like green beans, tomatoes, lettuces, and herbs are very simple to grow and can just add to your cooking experience while saving you some money on produce at the store. And it can be kind of a fun and rewarding hobby too. But even if you don't want to garden, have no interest in gardening, don't have room to garden, you can even do things like buy bulk foods when they're in season. They'll typically be a lot cheaper then, and then you could freeze or do some canning or preserving, which is another bygone era practice that a lot of people still love to do today that helps you to preserve the food that you have when you have an abundance of it fresh so that you can eat it during the months when you can't grow your garden. I will make a ton of blanched green beans from my garden every year because we just get a ton of green beans. I will blanch them and then freeze them, and then they're very easy to add to soups or stews or roast in the oven, and I will be eating fresh green beans from the garden for months after I've cleaned out my garden for the year. Some form of growing your own food can work no matter where you live, so if that sounds like something that might be fun for you, it could also be a great way to save some money too. Another practice of previous generations was they just bought less stuff, particularly when it comes to our clothes. Fast fashion just wasn't a thing for previous generations. They were buying higher quality pieces that were more timeless, that could mix and match more easily, and things that were going to last. If we buy fewer high quality pieces that work well together, we're going to spend less money, we're going to get better quality, and we're going to have way less cost per wear. It is worth it to invest in something that's a little bit more pricey, but that you're not going to keep buying. And if you calculate the cost per wear over time on something expensive that you've purchased, maybe like a nice pair of shoes or a pair of jeans that you wear fairly regularly, just keep track of how much you spent and then how often you wear them. And you can see that the cost for wear for some of these items comes down to pennies. It can be worthwhile to not chase after the fast fashions and the trends, but rather just invest in a more minimal, polished, higher quality wardrobe. You'll have more space in your closet. You'll be less clutter. It makes it easier to figure out what to wear every day. Just something to think about when you're considering how you spend your money on clothing and how previous generations saved money. And as I just said, you definitely want to stop chasing trends. Seek the Lord's help to be content with what He's given you and what you already have. Don't pay attention to all the influencers trying to get you to spend money and put money in their pockets. Our grandparents' generation did not have all of that noise in their ear telling them what they had wasn't enough and they needed better because this person over here who they've never met has this really beautiful front porch and your front porch just is never going to be good enough until it looks like theirs. Until next year when the trend changes and now that same person is telling you need to change it again and put money in their pocket in the process. There are a lot of people making a lot of money telling you the thing they told you to buy last year isn't good enough anymore and now you need to buy this newer and better version of whatever that was. Don't fall into that trap. Another practice of previous generations was they used more cash than they did plastic. Credit cards weren't even a thing for some of these generations. So if it works for you, maybe consider trying a cash envelope budgeting system. Maybe you don't use it for every purchase just for the sake of convenience and security. But if you're having a problem sticking to your budget, sometimes just having to part with that cash can be a little bit more painful and it can help you have a visual idea of exactly how much money you have left in a particular category. This was how people did it for many, many years, and it worked. And if you're someone who's struggling with debt, particularly credit card debt, check out this video that I made about debt payoff methods that would hopefully be really helpful for you. Many people have found using cash over their card just helps them spend less and save more. One thing past generations couldn't do that you can do is consider subscribing to my channel. It's completely free and hopefully it will be a helpful tool as you seek to manage God's money in a way that brings Him glory. I'm sure you've heard the old saying, use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. There's a lot of wisdom there. And that is what previous generations did. They made do with what they already had. If they had something, they used it up before they bought something to replace it. They kept things for a long time and took care of what they had so that they could have it for the long haul, so they could really get a good cost per use out of all of their items. Or sometimes they just did without if it wasn't really a need. They had a good idea of needs versus wants. And that leads into my next old-fashioned frugal tip. Find ways to repair what you have before you replace it. Whether this is something as simple as learning how to sew a seam or a button, watching a YouTube video to figure out how to fix something that's broken in your house. Try to find ways to take what you have and see if you can fix it if it isn't working anymore before you just junk it and throw it away. So buying better quality and then taking good care of it, keeping it maintained. If it's your clothes, gentle washing, air dry, do things to help your stuff last longer, and then do what you have to do to repair and keep it in tip-top shape is definitely going to stretch your finances in the long haul and make you appreciate more what you have. Another area where we can save money is we can just simplify. Again, this influencer culture that we live in is telling us that we just need more and more. I can remember my grandmother talking about how she used one face cream, I think it was Pond's, and that was what she used for her face. But nowadays we're told that we need some sort of 12-step skincare process to prevent aging or make ourselves look good. It seems a little extreme. 12 steps or whatever you're buying just means you have more stuff you're spending money on, more stuff you have to replace regularly. And I'm not saying ditch every product for your face. I am not going to do that and just go to your Pond's cream. But what I am saying is that's just an example. Where can we simplify? Where can we see where we may have bought into things having to be a little too complicated and having to spend more money for those complicated processes, and just find ways to simplify, cut back, still with the same goal in mind, but is there an easier, simpler way to do it? That's just gonna save you money. Another thing we could bring back is hand-me-downs. I really benefited from hand-me-downs as the mom of the youngest grandchild in our family. There were some older boy cousins who were able to give my guy lots of cute clothes. It's awesome. It saves so much money. It gives new life to things that are just not going to be worn for very long. Another area could be hand-me-down maternity clothes within families or friend groups. You don't wear those things for that long. They're very expensive a lot of the time. So maybe you can benefit from somebody giving you some maternity hand-me-downs. Find ways to take what you have and see if you can hand it off to someone else so that it can have new life for someone, or just that you could save them money or help them out. Another thing we can do is look at what previous generations did for fun. Our grandparents had people over and played cards. Maybe they went bowling once in a while, or they worked on puzzles. Can we look to them for inspiration on ways to have fun without spending so much? Check out this video for some more ideas along those lines. Previous generations were also really good at taking their skills in sewing and crafting and using those things to save themselves money. Whether it's making your own clothes or mending clothes, creating home decor, this could be a great way if you have those crafting tendencies to save some money, maybe bless others, or update your home decor for pennies on the dollar. A girlfriend of mine and I just got together this past Christmas, brought out our sewing machines, and created gift bags out of Christmas fabric that we can reuse every year. It just makes us save money on wrapping paper, and it makes the gift wrapping process during Christmas much quicker because you're just tossing it in that bag. Think of ways that you can use your crafting skills to save some money, like maybe your grandparents or great-grandparents once did. Previous generations also had side hustles before side hustles were cool. They didn't need a cutesy name to show their ingenuity in bringing in extra income wherever they could. Looking for ways to make some extra cash was just a part of life because a lot of them lived on much tighter budgets, and they didn't have as easy an access to credit. So they had to live within their means, and to do that, they had to make their income stretch. This looked like mowing lawns, doing odd jobs for other people, taking on sewing or laundry, babysitting someone's children. What creative ways do you earn a little bit of extra money for your household? Comment down below and let us know. Another great old-fashioned practice is to thrift or upcycle before you buy something new. Check out thrift stores or Facebook Marketplace if you're looking for a new piece of furniture. Have fun and be creative and turn something old into something new to save some money and have a really unique item. Another great way to save money, particularly if gas prices are high, is to batch your errands. I like to think of it like in Little House on the Prairie when they would go into town to get everything that they needed, and they would just do that all at one time because getting into town was far away and kind of a whole process. Most of us live close to all kinds of shopping, but it can be really wise to not just go off and go to the store for one item that you don't really need. So think of ways that you can batch your errands, batch your shopping, try to hit things in the same area of town while you're over there. Especially when gas prices are high, this can be a real money and time saver. Another thing older generations did was they hated debt. A lot of times, depending on how far back we're going, they didn't have the option for easy debt. But even when they did, they were not prone to just put something on credit and pay it over time. They were more likely to save up for that item, and they would delay gratification until they were able to pay for it with cash. Don't believe the lie that debt is a part of life that you can't avoid. You absolutely can have a debt-free life. And a big part of that is just practicing godly contentment. Seeking the Lord's help to be happy with what you have so that you're not constantly chasing after all of these things that you think will fulfill you. Delaying gratification, being able to tell your needs versus wants, telling yourself no, and making do with what you have are all things previous generations did to avoid debt and to save money and to be more financially free and financially stable. And when we practice godly contentment, we gain so much more than just a better financial bottom line. It reaps benefits of fruit in our lives when we are just thankful and grateful for what God has chosen to give us, and we just want to manage it well to His glory. Let me know in the comments below some other frugal tips from a bygone era that might be helpful to save us some money today, and click over into this playlist to talk more about managing money to the glory of God. I'll see you over there. Thanks for watching.